Mendoza. I am an associate professor of art history at the School of Visual Art and Design. My flash video talk for the 9th International Conference on Religion and Spirituality and Society is entitled Anatomy, Flesh, and Resurrection, Sculptures of the Supine Dead Christ in Counter-Reformation Spain. The University of Valladolid was the first Castilian institution where anatomy was taught from human dissection. The Consejo Real was located in Valladolid, and the city was the capital of the Spanish Empire in 1469 and again in 1601. We cannot underestimate Valladolid's importance and that of Spanish anatomists. It is no surprise that we have an artist, Gregorio Fernández, which you see here at the top, from Valladolid, producing anatomically accurate representations of the dead Christ. Other artists, such as Francisco Fermín, which you see at the bottom, quickly followed suit, as these images were increasingly popular. I have proposed that these works have Eucharistic significance and that they show the dead Christ after the deposition and before the elevatio. Vesalius was an influential anatomist in Europe, and his fabrica's layout and illustrations are unsurpassed by any other anatomical book. However, it was expensive and made for an elite, and you see it at left. He also produced the epitome, which was a larger format. It had 14 leaves and was used by students as a practical atlas. It had 10 woodcuts, and 500 to 600 copies were made. The epitome was likely what artists were using. Vesalius intended it to be used by artists and even included wall charts. The paper for the epitome, dedicated to Charles V's son, the future Philip II of Spain, was 55 centimeters. On the left, you have the frontispiece, and on the right, you have a paper mannequin. It had fewer pages than the fabrica. It had two parts. The first, textual description of the body parts. The second, those parts were shown in legends and keys. Vesalius describes the body, how it is dissected and put together. A three-dimensional body is conveyed in a two-dimensional medium of the page, specifically with this paper mannequin. It is a visual embodiment of the human body as Vesalius saw it in his fabrica. One copy of the epitome exists on vellum in the Escorial that might have been presented to Philip II. The second, from Cambridge, that you see here is one that was probably presented to Charles V. In 1551, Bernardino Montaña de Monserrate published in Valladolid El Libro de la anatomia del hombre, the first book in Spanish to address the subject. By the time of its publication, the theories of the book were outdated, but the illustrated plates were copies of the images found in Vesalius' fabrica and his epitome. The illustrations are smaller in scale and would have been easily accessible to everybody. Other Spanish books on anatomy were published during this time, including Juan de Valverde's Historia de la composicion del cuerpo humano, published in Rome in 1556. This work was illustrated by Gaspar Becerra, whose sculpture served as the president for Gregorio Fernández. Valverde's book, published in Rome, complains about Vesalius' particular style of Latin. Noted it was used for it confused the readers that could not understand it. He continues by appealing to the Spanish reader and writes, quote, "Therefore it seemed to me a wise idea to write this book in our own language," end quote. Dionisio, Daza, Chacón, Práctica y teoria de la chirugía, published in Valladolid in 1580, on the right, in which he boasts that Latin was easier for him, but that he is making the necessary sacrifice for the greater good of the study of anatomy in Spain. Gaspar Becerra's work on the plates for Valverde that are seen on the right show his close attention to elements found in postizos, such as the glass eyes. Postizos are defined as false elements made of glass, wax, cork, resin, and bull horn. Here, this Cristos yacente, this figure of Christ sculpted, shows the bruises of the body from the tying of the column, the wounds from the crown of thorns, and Longinus' lance. Lacerations were represented as well as torn flesh. These were done by artists known as encarnadores, literally painters of flesh. These techniques are discussed at length in Pacheco and his art of painting. The hyperreality of the work was highlighted through the use of postizos. A link between colored anatomical illustration and wax models have been established, but further study needs to link polychrome sculpture to these models. Gaetano Julio Zumba may have been the first anatomical modelist in 1695. His specimen of the head was imitated by many, including Susini, which you see at right, in the 1800s. Notice here the similarities between the open mouths and eyes of both the sculpture I have been discussing and the anatomical model at right. By By the 17th century, empirical proofs such as autopsies were becoming important in the human sciences as a way to confirm and verify the nature of the body. The anatomical accuracy of these sculptures I have shown relied on Vesalius' epitome and Spanish anatomical treatises, because they would have been accessible to them in Valladolid. There was also a direct reliance on the drawings, and they may have attended public dissections. The Catholic belief in the resurrection of the flesh ties directly to the anatomical representation. The focus on Christ's suffering connects to the Eucharistic meaning of the work and Counter-Reformation devotional practices like you see here, in which a sculpture of Christ is being processed through the city of Valladolid during Holy Week. The lacerated body of Christ and its wounds are noted by contemporary mystics as windows to paradise that serve to elevate the viewer to a higher state of empathetic contemplation. Scientific anatomical representation was used in the service of the church to produce a work that was verisimilitude and had a hyper-reality that engaged with the viewer. So this is the biography that you can use for further study, and I look forward to the publication of my article so you may read it.